Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Find Your Wings podcast. So, with the recent show on Netflix about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, I became very interested in them and the royal family. I never really had big feelings on the royal family before. I didn't like them nor dislike them. But after watching the Netflix series, I really think Meghan Markle is particularly smart and interesting. And it's been interesting to learn about their life through that show. So I decided to check out Meghan Markle's podcast. It's called Archetypes, and it's really about all the stereotypes and different archetypes or words or things that describe women in society and box us into being one thing. And that one thing is how we're defined by society, and they don't really get to know the rest of, ourselves. So in this episode, she was talking about her experience very early on in her acting career, where she got a paid gig to be one of the briefcase girls on the game show Deal or No Deal. And she was saying how she had to be one thing, and she was defined as one thing, and that was being pretty on the show. But the thing was, she was also smart. She had an international affairs degree from college in addition to her acting degree. And she said a lot of the other women were also very smart, but the show told them, nope, you don't speak, you don't talk, you just stand there and look pretty, and that's all we're defining you as the show. And she said she felt so one-dimensional. And something about that statement really, really stuck out to me. And it made me think about my life and how just in life in general, we're so boxed in. And so I really just sat there and I said, what is being one-dimensional? Society pushes us into this box. It's easier to accept one thing or define someone by one thing rather than accept them for all the things that they are. It's an identity crisis I've struggled with my whole life. How can I be the same deep and serious person who can manifest things and get in touch with my gut feeling and my higher self, but also be completely silly and goofy, be smart but not too smart so people think I'm relatable? How can I make good money, have a nice house, drive a nice car, but be labeled to fit in with everyone else and stay humble? How can I be a musician and an artist but also be this corporate successful business person? Why does society have to label us, and what can we do about it? In writing, an author calls a character who doesn't have an arc through the story one-dimensional. It's defined as a character who's the same at the beginning as they are at the end. Is that how you want to be described? Isn't the whole point of life to change and learn and grow, have ups and downs, and be different at the end than we were at the beginning? It can feel so ingrained in us that we have to define people as one thing or be one thing. We define people as their job, as them being a parent. We define someone by their likes or their dislikes when really we're all multidimensional and we should be recognized for it. I think it's too easy to get caught up in how others define us, so we throw ourselves into that one thing. Then we wake up and other parts of ourself were ignored. What if we weren't meant to be just one thing or do just one thing? We get so far down the path in the rat race of daily life that we forget what really lights us up. Is it doing arts and crafts or drawing, playing with our dog or helping animals, doing a science experiment with your kids, exercising, reading or writing, sharing your voice through music or words? What is it that lights you up? What is it that makes you jump out of bed and be excited to look forward to that part of your day? For me, the magic in my life has always come when I've combined my dimensions. When I apply my creativity in music or sharing my voice with others, apply my knowledge of what I've learned over the course of my life, and I do it in a way that makes me feel happy and fulfilled, that's when I'm in my groove, and that's when I'm starting to connect with others and help others. And that's when I feel like I'm connected to my purpose. I don't think I've ever been happy when I've fallen into the trap of defining myself as just one thing. So if you feel like you've lost parts of yourself or you've become too one-dimensional, how do you take a step back into becoming that multi-dimensional person with lots of likes and interests and that person who you are meant to be? I've put together 5 thoughts that I want to share with you on this. So first, figure out what it is you like to do on the side. Then make it a small habit or a hobby. So for me right now, it's my podcast. I enjoy connecting with others through this creative outlet. I enjoy sharing my thoughts. So I dedicate parts of my night each night after working my corporate job all day and parts of my weekend to working on the podcast. This allows me to prove to myself that I can be both the podcaster and the corporate professional. So the more I get used to this routine, the more I do it, the more it becomes part of my identity. So if you're living it and believing it, then others start to believe it as well. And all of a sudden you wake up and you're no longer defined by that one thing anymore. I've had friends start asking about the podcast where maybe our conversation before was just about work. How's work? How's your job? But now they're asking about this, and that's reinforcing the fact that I'm now defined by both facets in my life. So second, have an open mind when it comes to others. You cannot expect grace and acceptance when you can't give it back. Allow other people to be whatever version of themselves they want to be. Don't make hasty generalizations. So when you meet someone, that one experience or activity that you did with them, don't let that define who they are or tell you that that's all that they like or that's all that they're interested in. They're a multidimensional person. I'm sure they have tons of likes and interests, but just because you shared one moment or one thing together doesn't mean that that's all that they are. It's funny when my dad and I, we played music together for years, and we would play gigs professionally. We'd get paid to do them. So we'd show up at the gig, whatever it might be. It might be a country club for private members where they have a dinner and a dance for, some special event. And he always told me that the song that you're playing, when the person enters the room or when they walk by and they hear you for the first time, they're making that judgment of who you are as a band, as a musician from that moment. So if they walk by and you're playing a slow song, they say, okay, they're mellow and they're kind of boring. If they walk by and you're playing a hip new dance song, they say, oh, they're like this really modern band and they play too much of fast music. But what they're not hearing is over the course of a 3-hour night, we would cover ground slow, fast, medium tempo, old songs, new songs, songs for every liking, And we were still being defined by the song they heard when they first walked in. At the end of the night, what feedback we would get was that very first impression. So this is a very big reminder to let that go and give others the grace to show different parts of themselves to you so that you can do the same, and it will help yourself live a more well-rounded life and others. So third, listen to your gut to figure out what deserves space in your life. I want to say it again. Listen to your gut to figure out what deserves space in your life. When doing an activity, does it make you anxious or does it make you happy? Now, I'm not saying quit your job because it makes you anxious. You have to make an earning somehow, but following your likes and how you feel builds the activities back into your life that make you a well-rounded person with lots of experiences, likes, and interests. You'll feel more fulfilled and happy too. Fourth, allow yourself to show up in different ways. Are you always the funny friend with jokes? Well, try asking a friend a very serious question, or vice versa. Allow yourself to explore different parts of your personality. Being multidimensional just isn't about what you do. It's not just by the career that you're defined by. It's allowing you to be all the parts of yourself fully, meaning all the parts of your personality as well. And lastly, the next time someone asks you about yourself, I want to challenge you here. So the next time somebody comes up and says, hey, tell me about yourself, or what do you do for a living, or what have you been up to lately? Refrain, I challenge you, from saying what you do first. So you might be tempted to say, if you're an accountant, oh, well, just been busy at the accounting firm. Or if you're in healthcare, oh, I've had lots of late shifts at the hospital lately, work has been busy. Refrain from talking about your job first, because that's just one facet of your life. It does not define you. So I want to challenge you to lead with other things that are important to you, that fill your space, that fill your life. So is that being a parent? Is it being an animal rescue advocate? Is it being a musician, a writer, a fitness junkie, whatever it is? Respond with that first. Then you can talk about work, because that's part of your dimension that makes you multidimensional, but it's not all you. So I want to challenge you to respond with something out of the norm. Again, this goes back to the first piece of the more you say it out loud, the more you think it, do it, become a habit, it makes it more believable in your life, and others start to define you as this well-rounded person, not just as that one thing. So don't feed into it. What you do to earn an income and living doesn't define you. It's one part of your life. I challenge you to embrace all the parts of your life and truly live your best, most multidimensional year yet.